My name's Ben Richardson. I am Director of Building Physics in our London office. I suppose the clue's in the name. It's a passive standard that really is applicable for housing, and it's best applied to buildings and spaces that have quite a high heat demand. Typically, it was originally designed for your single family dwelling, two-storey house. It's not overly applicable for high-rise residential towers in cities, but it is for your standard residential home. A lot of relatively new homes are overheating in the UK, probably because they were designed 10 to 15 years ago when building regulations weren't as stringent back then. There were no fabric energy efficiency requirements. There was no requirement for Part O, the overheating standard. So those two items in themselves probably resulted in quite inefficient and quite ineffective buildings in terms of overheating. Insulation is actually a really important benefit for overheating, and the reason being, you often want to isolate the internal environment from the external environment, and insulation's a really big part of that. So it's not the culprit, it's actually the solution. If you imagine a really hot summer where you're up above 30 plus degrees, you want to insulate yourself against that and protect yourself from that heat. So insulation's a really important design feature. It often has to work with other elements of design as well though. You need to have openable windows to let any heat out, and you need a whole other raft of solutions to help prevent overheating. So I think the two biggest retrofit measures that will help with overheating are external shading and openable windows. Now, external shading is maybe a tricky thing to retrofit, but I mean, I do something really simple, which I've installed a couple of little hooks on my roof soffit just outside the first floor windows, and I've taken an old IKEA rug and just put some string on it and I hang it outside. And I think the key word there is external. You really want to block out the sun before it gets through the window, and internal blinds aren't anywhere near as effective as external shading. So movable external shading is really important. And then secure nighttime openable windows. So if you are going to retrofit your windows, make sure they are able to open fully. That will allow a lot of the heat out, a lot of the cold air in. But there are some other operational measures, retrofit measures potentially, that you could incorporate that you don't hear so much. And one of them is, if you're in a house, converting your living and bedroom to be upside down. So living on the first floor and sleeping on the ground floor. And I've tried this myself and it does make a huge difference. The lower floors are a lot cooler and it's a lot easier to sleep at night because that heat rises onto the first floor. If you are able to separate off ground floor with first floor, either through a door or a curtain or something like that, to stop the air moving up, that will prevent some of the hot air that's created on the lower floors to get up onto the first floors. And it's one of the reasons why a lot of loft rooms suffer really badly in summer months, because all the heat that builds up in the house just goes straight to the loft, coupled with, of course, the roof just being exposed to the sun and there being very little air gap between the room and the roof itself. It causes extra problems. I think we can make our homes ready for heat waves as well as cold winters just through one design intervention, which is glazing, and appropriate glazing. If you imagine a conservatory or a greenhouse, they're too cold in winter and too hot in summer. If we design our homes that have higher proportions of glazing, then we have similar sorts of effects, and glazing is the weak link in our building design. So it needs to be the Goldilocks of glazing, the sweet spot. So not too much, not too little, but just right, so that we still get benefits from energy, we still get benefits from daylight, we still get benefits from views out and connection to outdoor spaces, but without the risk of overheating. So good design and the right amount of glazing is the optimal solution, in my opinion.